Good evening, gentlemen. I'm going to talk to you on a very serious topic today, and that concerns the Indian Armed Forces. I'm not going to tell you the news, I'm only going to analyze what's happening, and I think there are some dangerous signs which are coming up which could damage the Indian military potential. Mark my words. The first of all, the incident which I'll relate is the one which you've read about in the papers. You've seen lots of videos about it, and it happened at the military cantonment in Bathinda. Now, this is one of the biggest cantonments in Asia. I would say it is the biggest. It's the home to number 10 Corps, and there are at least two lieutenant generals there. And there's so many other units there. And this particular incident, I understand, has taken place in the officers' mess. Four Jawans, good soldiers, have been martyred, shot dead. There's a lot of link thing going on. It shows that there is a easygoing attitude getting on into the armed forces. Firstly, people must ask that there was a rifle which was missing 2 days earlier, and what action was taken on that missing rifle, and what were the standard operating procedures which lay down the checking of the rifles in the armory. Who were doing it? How could a rifle which is kept by serial number be missing? Obviously, the people in charge should have been immediately caught, arrested, put behind bars, but not done. I don't think it was done. And they were just carrying out some investigation casually. This is not the way a military force has to function. The clue to the issue is the easygoing, the lackadaisical attitude of the staff, maybe the soldiers, the officers, all involved. The fact remains that there also doesn't seem to be a cohesion between the officers and the men. And the word which is doing the rounds, and you must have read about it, and that is fratricide. Fratricide means killing your own kin. Now, this is a highly sanitized cantonment. Nobody from outside could have entered inside, so it's an internal job, as clear as simple as that. It's been done by soldiers. I'm told two men have been caught, but there's no guarantee that these are the men. And then you have to get to the root cause of these things. Nobody's given us the identity of the assailants who have been caught, and nothing else has come. And the army police and the army senior officers are interrogating them. Good, best of luck to them. But they must come to the root cause as to why such an incident has taken place. Is it a terrorist angle? People are scared to use the word Khalistan. But then that is the reality. The reality is that they are a section of Sikhs who are swayed by God knows what reasons. Maybe money, maybe anything. I can't say anything about it. But definitely it is not love for the Sikh religion. It doesn't mean anything like that. And there is a divide. Nobody knows who the terrorists were and who influenced these men. Because in case they belong to a particular community, then it's a very dangerous sign. That's the first thing. Second thing, even if they are not from this community and they are from somebody else, it points to a more serious problem in the army. That means the cohesiveness between the ranks, between the army officer and the soldier is missing. Gentlemen, I would like you to think about all this, because the Indian Army is one of the biggest armies in the world with 1.2 million men under arms. And such an incident cannot be allowed to happen. And worst part of it is, just 12 hours later, another Jawan was shot dead. And the army says it was misfiring while loading a weapon. I mean, I've been spent donkey's years in the Air Force. This shows something else. It shows a careless attitude, a lack of following standard operating procedures. First, the missing rifle. Why were the men who were responsible for the missing rifle not brought to book immediately? And how could the rifle be missing when the rifles are kept serial number wise changed to a rack and they are checked twice a day? There's something called the orderly officer. Every day there's an orderly officer appointed who goes around checking the armory guns. He counts them, all of them. They're 200, 250. They're all counted and a registered entry made. Probably somebody was casual in that and just signed okay. This is a very dangerous sign, gentlemen. And you add to it to the other incident which took about 2, 3 years back in the famous Balakot strike which the Indian Air Force carried out. There was a Mi-8 helicopter which took off from Srinagar airfield and over Budgam was shot dead by an Israeli missile which had been bought by the Indian Air Force on the orders of a group captain. And now years have elapsed and there doesn't seem to be anything moving forward. The courts in India are so easygoing and so many stays and things are being given that these men have not been brought to book, the ones who ordered the firing, in which 6 innocent Air Force personnel died for nothing, just as the 4 Jawans have died in Bathinda for nothing. Gentlemen, I say all this with great sadness because any life lost without reason needs atonement. Somebody has to atone for it. And the army doesn't seem to be capable of that. First, there was the divide in the armed forces and ranks, officer Jawan divide, which was never there till 47. I haven't heard about any incidents of fratricide before 1947 when the British were there. And for the next 10 years after that, also, the army continued with the same traditions. But then new laws began to come in, and the recruitment base was changed. And now, over the years, the aspirations of the soldier match those of the officer. You can't have that in any country. But that is a fact of life. That means the soldier doesn't want to remain as a soldier, he wants to be treated equivalent to an officer because of rising aspirations. I do not know. Maybe a commission of inquiry could be set up as to how the American Air Force and the Russian Air Force or the Army deal with such incidents. The American Air Force has also got a similar incidence of fratricide. But there it is again a racial problem, and so many blacks have shot the whites dead. And some of the Muslim soldiers have also been going and killing their brethren, like in the famous Fort Hood shooting. Gentlemen, I feel very sad when I say this. The fact is that these 2 incidents which I've just taken out, the one in Srinagar, which concerns the Air Force, and the other incident which concerns the latest one at Bathinda, show something very dangerous. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to comment on it. I want you all to think about it, that these are not ordinary things which are happening, and they affect a mighty army, and in battle, these things can act as a tremendous drawback, and they could be the clue which the enemy is looking to break the back of the Indian army. Gentlemen, there needs to be a court of inquiry done up expeditiously, not hanging around for 3 years. Like the group captain is still not been dismissed from service. He should have been done away with immediately. And why should the courts interfere in military law? That is not enough. We have to deal with it. Anybody doing grave dereliction of duty needs to be court-martialed and executed. These are strong words. But even if one execution takes place, the country can be safe. I'm not recommending anything. I don't say anything at all. I don't want to say anything myself. But having spent time in the Air Force, in the armed forces, and having an association of over 100 years with the Indian military, I am very saddened by the incidents. And these are not the only incidents which are happening. There are so many hints. There are channels on TV which are being put forward by certain ex-servicemen which want to create a divide between the officer and the man. That is also, I wonder if the government could look at those channels. There are some of them who are having hundreds and thousands of viewers. Probably that when you say something sensational, people come and say, and because I don't say anything sensational, so my viewership is limited. But then, gentlemen, we have to be very, very wary of what is happening. And I think the ball has been set rolling as the downslide of the army is when General Rawat took over as the army chief. I don't think I agree with any of his policies which he had put up. Anyway, I'll not comment on him because he was a good soul. He rose to the rank of the CDS. But then everybody is not same. After all, Rommel, the German commander, was greatly inflated, and we all know what he did: nothing, zero. Ultimately, he had to commit suicide because he realized the war is lost, went against Hitler, and that was the end of it. Gentlemen, there's an old saying, cleaning the Augean stables. That is, the Augean stables were the stables of the gods which could not be cleaned. And it is about time somebody made an attempt to clean the Augean stables of the Indian Armed Forces. Most of the armed forces officers and men in service are following the rules laid down when it comes to non-lethal things. But lethal things like survey of weapons, accountability, inventory management, they don't seem to have matched up with the latest technology. Gentlemen, I will close now with sadness. 5 Jawans have lost their life. It shows a lack of application, a lack of following the standard operating procedures, and it also shows that there is a deep schism in the army, which is very dangerous, and the sooner it is done away with, the better it is. I close now and hope all of you like this video. Please share with your friends, and if you get time, you could even give a comment on it. I will close now and say, Jai Hind, glory to India. Take care. God bless.